Once upon a time in the ancient city of Dwarka, there lived a beggar named Madhav. He was old, frail, and worn down by the hardships of life. Every day he sat by the city gates, asking for alms from passers-by, hoping to gather enough to survive another day. His eyes, sunken and weary, still held a faint glimmer of hope that life might someday show him mercy. One day, a grand festival was announced in Dwarka. The streets buzzed with excitement, and people adorned themselves in colorful clothes, carrying offerings for Lord Krishna. Madhav watched the celebrations from afar, feeling like an outsider in a world that seemed to have no place for the poor. He sat quietly, whispering to himself, "If only I could meet Lord Krishna once, perhaps he would understand my suffering." Overwhelmed by this desire, he decided to go to the palace. As he made his way through the bustling streets, people glanced at him with disdain, covering their noses at his ragged appearance. Some scorned him, others ignored him entirely. But Madhav pressed on, determined to meet the Lord. Reaching the palace gates, he was stopped by the guards.
"Where do you think you're going, old man?" one of them sneered. "I have come to see Lord Krishna," Madhav replied softly. The guards laughed mockingly. "A beggar wants to meet the King of Kings? Go away before we throw you out."
Disheartened but not defeated, Madhav sat down outside the gates. He decided he would wait, no matter how long it took. Days passed, and he grew weaker, surviving on scraps thrown by kind strangers. Despite his frailty, he continued to pray, whispering, "Krishna, if you are truly compassionate, won't you come to me?" One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of crimson, the palace doors opened. Out came a radiant figure, clothed in simple yet elegant garments. It was Lord Krishna himself walking towards Madhav. His smile was serene, and his eyes, deep as the ocean, were filled with compassion. Madhav, too weak to stand, could only gaze in awe as Krishna knelt beside him. "You called for me, Madhav?" Krishna asked gently. His voice was like a soothing breeze after a scorching day. Tears welled up in the beggar's eyes. "My lord, I have nothing. I am but a poor soul with a life full of pain. Yet I dared to hope that you might hear my prayer." Krishna smiled, took Madhav's trembling hands into his own and said, "You may have nothing in the eyes of the world, but your heart is full of faith. That is more precious than any wealth." He touched Madhav's forehead, and at once the old man's weariness vanished. He felt a surge of warmth and light fill his being. In that moment, Madhav realized he no longer needed to beg, for Krishna had filled him with something far greater than worldly riches: peace, love, and eternal faith. As Krishna rose to leave, Madhav called out, "Wait, my lord, how can I ever repay you?" Krishna turned back, his eyes twinkling with kindness. "Share the love you feel in your heart, Madhav. No one is too poor to give compassion. That is the greatest wealth of all." From that day forward, Madhav never begged again. Instead, he sat by the gates, offering kind words and blessings to all who passed. His story spread through the city, and people began to realize that compassion was not measured by wealth, but by the heart's capacity to love. Moral of the story: true wealth lies not in possessions, but in faith, kindness, and compassion. Even when life seems harsh and unfair, a heart full of faith can attract divine grace. And when we receive love, the best way to honor it is by passing it on to others. This tale of Madhav and Lord Krishna reminds us that no one is too insignificant to be seen by the divine, and no act of kindness is too small to change the world. Stories have the power to connect us, teach us, and inspire us. If this story brought you joy or made you think, give it a like. And for more stories that warm your heart, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There's so much more to share.